just gonna do kind of what we practiced the other day, right? Like when we actually start, I'll go up, give you guys the thumbs up to start the video.
Yep.
Right? Great. Cool. Yeah. I don't think we're gonna start there for like another. Okay. I'll let you guys know. Thanks. Oh, wow. Where's Astro?
Where do you want us?
Alvin knows where. Yeah, over here. Just anywhere over here.
Ugly sweater.
Hey. On?
Yeah. Good. How about yourself?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Very excited for Health Winter Expo. We are going to be starting in about 3 minutes. Thank you. So
I have to be here, and I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my speakers are going backstage.
Okay, great. I'm so yeah.
Yeah, no,
Really,
I'm ready.
I'd love for Brian. Was Brian the one who talked to the people at Gillette or no?
Dennis Jolly?
Yeah.
He's Gillette. He's one of our panelists.
No, Brian from University
Brian?
Hospitals.
Yeah. Wait.
Sorry, what's his name? The pediatric neurosurgeon.
Brian Rothstein.
Brian Ross.
Yes.
Yeah. Is Brian the one that Dennis talked to, or have they talked?
I do not know.
I'd really love them to talk.
Oh, great.
Yeah, at some
Hopefully
point.
they're talking right now.
Yeah, great. Okay. So.
Quick question. They said we have reserved seating. Do you know how we find out where we sit?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Make us sure.
Hi. Yes, I know where
Yeah.
you sit.
Okay.
I don't see Saeed.
Where's
I don't know if he wants to.
You went for a walk.
Okay.
After I come out and do my Cleveland piece, then do I go backstage again? Or do I just
Yeah.
get off the stage?
You can go backstage.
Okay.
Yeah, just go back. Yeah,
That
and I'll
way
call you up
you're
again. Did you want me to wait for him?
text him. I don't think so, but let me. Yeah. Then it may be like Netta didn't speak.
Netta June, I didn't see you speak.
Then I'll have to speak at like IoT Summit or something. That will really not make sense.
I'm the global head of Plug and Play Health.
Plug and
Welcome
Play.
to IoT. Yeah.
Everything. I'll take this off. Putting it on.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Mine says Ned's. Only actually mine. I don't want to reach it. We'll give Mr. Amity another minute.
Nice.
I have a fun joke. Saeed's joke was about honey.
What was it?
He said we had a really big like what I like to call many of my friends honey. It was something like that. It was great.
That is good.
Where are the dry folks are here? They got nice seating.
They did.
The video.
Good.
There's a very strong network of both entrepreneurs here, corporations and VCs.
The corporate partners you're bringing today are stellar.
Simply the exposure that Plug and Play gives us to potential customers is absolutely essential.
We look for three things: technology, team, and traction. And if you're able to do those three things, we look forward to seeing you.
Well, welcome everybody. I feel like I have to come up and jump on stage with that music background. My name is Netta Amidi and I oversee our healthcare program here at Plug and Play globally. Welcome. I just wanted to kick things off and just welcome everyone to Batch 9 Demo Day here. This is our second day of the summit. We had a great session yesterday with InsurTech and Enterprise 2.0, travel and hospitality this morning, and then health this afternoon. And for those of you that will continue with us tomorrow, we have an exciting lineup of IoT, real estate, and mobility as well. And that's one of the benefits of Plug and Play, is to be able to see what is happening in other industries and other locations. And with that, I'll pass it on to the Master of Ceremony, our head of our corporate partnerships here in Silicon Valley, Zach. Thank you.
For the record, Saeed is the real master, not me. So thank you. Today is such an exciting day for everybody here. Obviously, it's an incredible day for our startups, but also for the other people in the room, our 28 global corporate partners who have come from around the globe to be here, as well as everybody else. So while I'm very excited for our startups, I'm incredibly proud and happy to have so many different people here. So thank you, everyone, for coming. This is a fantastic day for healthcare. If we can give ourselves a round of applause. Great job, everyone. Yeah, great job. And with that, we have some really exciting announcements that I'm so excited for. The first is our new partners. The first one, Pfizer, that you can see there. Pfizer is our newest corporate partner. And with that, the 5 largest pharmaceutical companies in the world are now all partners of Plug and Play Health. So incredibly excited for that. The second is Drive. Drive is a division of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and we're very fortunate to actually have the leadership team from there here today. And what we're doing with them is focused on helping the entire U.S. population, all 350 million of us, being able to prevent sepsis and being able to mitigate any kind of disease outbreak. On the complete other spectrum is the division of NASA TRISH, the Translational Research Institute for Space Health. In 2024, we put the space station on the moon, and in 2032, we are sending our astronauts to Mars. So going from a population size of 350 million to 4 astronauts. It's incredibly exciting. And then also DS Pharmaceuticals, one of the major pharmaceutical companies in Asia. Incredibly excited to have them in Silicon Valley. Across the pond in Munich, incredibly excited to have Almirall Pharmaceutical joining us as well as a very unique relationship. One extremely exciting is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Also, incredibly excited to announce Sanofi is expanding our partnership. They're an incredible partner and going into Singapore. In Kyoto, with our brand new office, which is absolutely beautiful, we have 5 new partners there. One thing that's really exciting that you can see there is Sumitomo is actually having a dual partnership in both Silicon Valley and Kyoto. So a lot of new partners, a lot of new engagement, incredibly excited for it. And our health portfolio. So you can see here, we've now made 52 total investments just in healthcare in the last 10 years. And this is why we're the 3rd most active venture capital firm just in healthcare itself. We can see the big exits that we've had. Tuyo, bought by Apple. Garden Health, we actually just invested in them when Amir and his partner were PhD students at Stanford. And if you look at their market cap right now, it's around $7.5 billion. Some success stories in here that we're incredibly excited for from the investment standpoint, but also really excited to be able to introduce them to our corporate partners, to be able to do pilot projects with. In 2019, there were 102 unicorns created, and 6 of them were in healthcare alone. Healthcare is becoming a very hot space to be able to invest in and have great success with. But today is Health Batch 9. And what's so incredible about this batch is not just the breadth itself, but also the depth within it. Everywhere from clinical trials and pharmaceuticals, chronic disease management, telehealth, mental health, and then also AI and data analytics. Some really fantastic cross-vertical opportunities that we're doing there, bringing things that are happening in different industries, and then bringing them into healthcare to help our patients. Really exciting to see what's happening there. And there are a total of 18 startups in Health Batch 9. And you can see here our global reach. So obviously, we're here in Silicon Valley, but then we also have 4 other locations just specific to healthcare. That includes Cleveland, where we work very closely with the clinic and university hospitals, Munich, Shanghai, and our brand new office, Kyoto. You can see our other locations there. We now have 34 locations around the globe, opening up on average 1 location per quarter. So the growth that we're seeing is really tremendous and really speaks a lot to what we're doing across all of these different industries. But with that, let's kind of give just a rundown of what's happening in each one of the locations themselves. I'll do the Silicon Valley one, and then Jennifer can come out for Cleveland, and then also Julia, and then very excited to actually have our Kyoto office here as well. Here in Silicon Valley, we have 17 partners, and you can see them here on your right-hand side. We're on our 9th batch, which has 18 startups, and you can see our events here. But for Cleveland, I'd love to have Jennifer come up to give you the updates there.
Thanks, Zach. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Thomas, Managing Director at Plug and Play Cleveland. And so this is, our slide's not up there, but we launched in March of 2018. So we've been around for about a year and a half. Our partners are University Hospital, who's here today, Cleveland Clinic, Philips, and Einstein Hospital out of Brazil. And we have 5 partners now. We're on our batch 3. We're just about to announce it. And we have 12 startups in that batch. The most exciting thing for us is that we have 10 active pilots happening right now with our healthcare partners. So we're really proud of that. And if you get a chance to talk to our partners, University Hospital, they're a wealth of information. So thank you, Zach.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to watch some of the success that we've had here. We launched just 15 months ago, and we've had 36 startups accelerated with 5 partners and 10 pilot projects. So to be able to do that's really incredible. And actually what's also happening in Munich is just as incredible, and Julia's going to speak about that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Batch 9 Expo, and I'm so excited to be here as part of getting our Munich program actually off the ground. I relocated to Munich, but I'm from the area originally and was with Plug and Play's health team for 3 years prior. So it's really good to be home and see all the friendly faces of our partners and everyone in the room. For the Munich program, we have 2 partners with Roche Diagnostics and Sanofi Consumer Healthcare. The program launched last last September 2018, so we've been going for a little over a year. We're on our third batch of the program right now, and we've had over 10 pilots between the startups and the corporate partners, which, across industry is pretty incredible. And I think it's one of our most engaged satellite programs all over the globe. But especially for healthcare, it's quite a feat. I don't have to tell you guys in the room, the slow process of making this happen. So we're extremely proud of the success that both the program and the partners have had there. I touched on the pilots. And then for our Shanghai program in China, we're really excited to ramp up our activities there. We just welcomed a new partner, Merck, to join the program. We're completing a batch 0 this December with an expo there. So any of you that have interest within the China market or have colleagues that do, we'd love to get you involved. And then next year, we'll be starting an official batch 1 with our partners, Sanofi, Roche, Amgen, and Merck. I'm sure you guys noticed that we mentioned some names like Roche and Sanofi a number of times, and we love our global partners that are engaged with us all over the world and are really bringing, the spirit of Silicon Valley to these locations. So for any of you that are interested in engaging with us all over the world, I love to be on planes. So any new locations are always welcome. Thank you, everyone.
And so for the last one, Kyoto, you can actually see their expo is happening next week. It's their orientation day. Sorry, not expo. Their orientation day. You have to have that first. And they'll be having their focus weeks, and then in March is their expo. If you're going to be in the area, the office is beautiful. I keep hearing amazing things about the actual startups in the batch doing some really incredible work there. So if you're interested in even learning who those startups are, what they're doing, there's obviously some advantages that we can do cross-vertically and cross-globally that we can do there. So please inquire if you're interested as well. My name is Zachary Pohl. Like Netta mentioned, I lead corporate relations for us. You can see my email there. Reach out to me for any events you'd like to attend. If you're a startup, if you're at a large organization, whether it's a pharmaceutical company or a hospital or somewhere else in healthcare, and you're interested in joining our platform to do incredible work to help patients across the patient journey, please do not hesitate to reach out. But with that, very excited to have our pediatric-focused based panel discussion that Jennifer is going to be leading. So let's bring them up.
Hi, everyone, again. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have this kind of deep dive into the issues and challenges in pediatric medicine. And we have this incredibly diverse panel today, so I'm going to take a minute to introduce them. Right to my left, we have Dennis Jolly. He is Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer at Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare. They're based in the Twin Cities, but as you'll hear from him, they work all over the U.S. We have on the very end there, we have Omkar Kulkarni. He's Chief Innovation Officer at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. And then right here to my left also, we have Charlotte Stallworth. She's VP of Strategic Partnerships at Stanford Children's Health. And then finally, we have Dr. Brian Rothstein. He is pediatric neurosurgeon and inaugural fellows at University Hospital Rainbow Babies and Children's, and also an assistant professor in the Department of Neurosurgery at Case Western Reserve University. So welcome to our panel. As you can see, they have a lot of diverse experience up here. And what I'd like them to do is kind of start us off to really dive into the key issues and challenges in pediatric innovation, is to have each of you sort of talk about just a quick overview of your hospital system, maybe a sentence or two, so that we can get an understanding of your perspective as we start to address the issues. So Dennis, why don't you lead us off there?
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare is based in the Twin Cities, as Jennifer said. We are 123 years old. We specialize in children who have really complex medical conditions affecting the musculoskeletal and neurological systems primarily. We are a very small hospital that punches way above our weight class. We see kids from all across the U.S. and 30 foreign countries, and see really focused work in the neurosciences and orthopedics primarily. Our most common condition is cerebral palsy. Everything else is more rare than that.
Charlotte, please.
Stanford Children's Health is centered by Lucille Packard Children's Hospital at Stanford. We are the largest healthcare system in the Bay Area, focused exclusively on taking care of expectant mothers and children. Our pediatricians and specialists are accessible through over 100 sites in the Western United States, and of course worldwide via telehealth. Lucille Packard Children's Hospital is the obstetric and pediatric teaching hospital for Stanford University School of Medicine. So we're really at the forefront of research and innovation focused on improving healthcare outcomes for children.
Great. Go ahead, Brian.
So Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital is a standalone children's hospital in Cleveland, Ohio. We have about 225 beds, serving the greater Cleveland population and surrounding areas along the lakefront of Lake Erie. Specialty care across all subspecialties of pediatrics, in particular 3 areas that we're really well known for nationally, specifically neonatology and our care of premature infants.
Great. Omkar, please.
Sure. So Children's Hospital Los Angeles is in East Hollywood, Los Angeles. It is a safety net hospital, which means that we take care of patients regardless of their ability to pay or their immigration status. We're the only top 10 children's hospital in the country that is a safety net hospital. I'm very proud of that. About 75% of the patients that we take care of are on Medicaid or public insurance, which creates unique opportunities and challenges. We take care of all sorts of clinical conditions and specialties, pretty much anything except burns. And what I think is a little unique, so we take care of patients. We don't have an obstetrics area, so we take care of patients from NICU or age, day 1, all the way through 18, 20, 21, and even older, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And last little bit is LA is a very diverse city. Lots of kids in LA. Just for perspective, there's 2.5 million kids in LA. That's more than the entire population of Boston, for example. It's a lot of kids, and we're lucky enough to take care of them. But access becomes a challenge. And then the last piece for us is 60% of the patients that we see, English is not their first language. And so very diverse community that we represent.
Great, thanks. That gives us a really nice perspective. So we're going to just jump right in and find out. Again, we're talking about pediatrics, but those of you in the room who are not, who are doing adult medicine, we really think that a lot of this is applicable because these kids grow up to be adults and a lot of their diseases follow them. So let's really get to the burning issues. I'd like each of you to give me 1 or 2 burning issues in pediatrics right now that you're facing. Well, let's see. We'll start out with Dennis.
I think there's a couple of them. One of the big ones for us is access. Access in pediatrics is a real problem, particularly when you talk about families who don't live near a children's hospital. So the ways that we can extend care outside of the hospital, whether that be through remote monitoring, I mean, obviously telemedicine, but way beyond that, what can we do to allow patients to be monitored remotely, receive care remotely wherever possible, and support care in their communities, particularly those people who are in rural areas. We are in the middle of the upper Midwest, so our catchment area for our core population is still 5 states, and still not as many kids as you have, Omkar. And then, like I said, we have kids from all over the world. So that's one. I think also, how do we also facilitate early diagnosis and management of those kids? And if any of you have kids, you know that when your kid is sick, your entire day is shot. So if you have a kid, particularly one with a complex medical issue who requires multiple visits multiple times a year, how can we reduce that strain by utilizing technology to get care outside of the health system where possible?
Brian, I want to jump to you as a provider who sees patients every day. What's on your mind?
So I think certainly the things that we struggle with and where we need help from all of you is how we make our care more efficient and our ability to cross barriers and boundaries in the care of children and their families. When we take care of children, we don't just take care of the child, we take care of the family, which means a community, and a healthy group of children means a healthy community. And certainly one of the biggest challenges that we struggle with is the socioeconomic disparity in access to care. So not just the rural piece versus the central urban piece, but the actual differences in physical access, whether it be the cost of transportation to getting your child to a doctor's visit, cost of medications, and finding ways to deliver care in more efficient and creative ways to break down those barriers.
Great. Omkar, give us, from your perspective, what's a burning issue?
Sure, I'll give you two. These are specific problems that I've yet to see solutions specifically for. One is a shocking statistic that I've seen. So only about 35 to 40% of kids, by the time they get to school, elementary school, have been screened for developmental issues or disabilities, things like autism, learning disabilities, other things. And you can screen for these things very early. And it's not just a technology problem, there's also a care model problem. How do we actually not only build the technology to facilitate the screening, but how do we put it into a very short 10-minute doctor's office visit that otherwise has so many other things to do? On the very other end of the spectrum, a really good thing that I think a lot of our hospitals have contributed to, kids are now outliving childhood diseases. And so they are doing well, they're thriving. Kids that maybe 50 years ago would go to a children's hospital and may not survive their horrible treatment or their horrible diagnosis are now thriving. The challenge is these kids now continue to have these chronic conditions. They're 18, they're 19, they're 20 years old, and they need to transition from pediatric care to adult care. And that process is really messy. As you can imagine, the point where you were all 18 at some point. Think about what your life was like. You were at one point being taken care of by your family, your parents, who were taking care of your health care. Now you're transitioning to adult care. And so how do we make that transition? How can technology play a role in enabling that transition of care from pediatrics to adult, particularly for kids who have complex chronic conditions?
Got it. And Charlotte, coming from an academic center as well, you and I talked about an issue of philanthropy and actually what is studied, what is funded. Can you talk to that for a second?
Yeah, I think that is particularly challenging with the Children's Hospital because you have so many other compelling, competing issues and needs that need to be fulfilled. There's always a need for new space, new equipment that are competing for those needs for innovation, research that will continue to kind of push the leading edge for treatments for children. So I think really inside our organizations, really kind of making that case for innovation and research, and then ensuring that they're prioritized in a way that makes sense and that fits the mission of the organization. But I just think it's really important that we not allow that to be lost because it's, like I said, there are so many really compelling competing issues out there for us.
Got it. Great. So obviously, before artificial intelligence, machine learning, there was a lot of innovation in healthcare. It just moved a little slower. There was an R&D process, but it still moves slow. But there's been major innovation that you all know of in medical devices, whether it's artificial heart or in drug discovery, the polio vaccine, and even more recently with MRI technology. But now there seems to be this heightened anxiousness to speed of innovation. Everything has to be done quickly. So I wanted you all to address that speed. Where is the anxiousness coming from? Dennis, can you start us off on that?
Well, we're catching up with the rest of the planet. The one underlying answer to that for me is the economics. So our healthcare system, as it's currently structured and funded and everything, is unsustainable. If you look at, depending on which study you look at, healthcare spending across the system is expected to grow by about 10% over the next decade. Some say as much as 40%, but nobody wants it to go that much. But the per patient spending is going to decrease by as much as 28%, and hospital-based spending is going to decrease by a bunch. And that's a good thing, I think. We need to do a lot less of our health care in hospitals. And I'm saying that as a hospital person. And that's only going to happen if you all help. Because we need to seriously disrupt a system and an industry that is ripe for disruption, and it needs to happen. because it's driven by an economic model that's poor and a customer service model that is poor. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from what's happened in tech already in other industries.
And then what about all the industries that think all of a sudden healthcare is their industry? Charlotte, can you talk to us about that?
Right. I think there's a lot of peer pressure and a lot of attention on the healthcare industry. I think we've invited it by being probably the biggest portion of GDP for the United States. We're very expensive. Access is not so great. So suddenly every, I think, type of company, from tech companies to retail, to even defense companies, are focused on fixing the healthcare industry. And there are like hundreds or thousands of points of entry into the healthcare system if you're trying to do an incremental improvement on a device or grab market share by providing access through retail centers. So we as providers, I think, really have to be willing and open to some of the new ideas coming toward us, but every idea is not the fix, right? So there's a lot of screening and analysis we have to do as providers and those in the healthcare industry to ensure that we're moving in the right direction. So I think there's a lot of peer pressure to do something really splashy and kind of revolutionary innovation versus those incremental innovations. And I think it's just going to take both types in a lot of different areas, from EMRs, devices, drug therapies, et cetera, and a lot of AI and other tech that we probably haven't even thought of combining to impact healthcare.
Right. And Omkar, as a person who really understands the technology, what about the pressure from the B2C market? Things move so fast. You can get, products in a day. You can, everything is accessible on your phone instantly. Is that pressurizing healthcare as well?
I mean, I think to that point, there's a perceived pressure from the growing consumer demands that exist in healthcare, right? All of us as consumers and in everything outside of healthcare, you can order an Uber to your hospital by yourself on your phone. You can probably order an Uber Eats meal or a Postmates meal that'll be delivered to you at the same time, but then you get to the hospital and everything's still either on paper or moving really slowly. So there's this gap between the two, and often people just assume that because the consumer pressures that exist for everything outside of healthcare, that pressure will make everything move much quicker in healthcare. But the reality is, healthcare, particularly pediatric healthcare, involves a ton of risk. Clinicians, people that provide healthcare, realize that whereas if you get your Postmates order wrong, all right, you're frustrated. If healthcare goes wrong for your kid especially, it's life-changing, and we don't want to mess it up. And so the amount of risk tolerance, even for the most incredible AI innovations that are coming through, the risk tolerance is different compared to the consumer side. And I think that difference needs to be understood by people like us in the room. Otherwise, the frustrations exist, the expectations around speed to market aren't really aligned with reality. And some of those kind of stopgaps that prevent innovation from happening as quickly as we want to are there for a reason. Some aren't. Some we can just get rid of. But many of them are there for a reason, to protect kids, in our case, or adults that are actually seeking healthcare, because it's a really important thing that we can't get wrong, like a food order or a ride share.
Right, or your Amazon pick, pack, ship.
Yeah.
Right. So, Brian, I want to move on to you. Obviously, there's a lot of differences between pediatric and adult health care, but again, from the provider perspective, being there every day, we talked a little bit about the structure and why it's so hard to innovate inside of a pediatric hospital. What are some of those differences?
So I think that certainly Omkar's topic right there, in terms of the challenges of working in a landscape where interventions need to be validated and make sure that we're not doing harm. My job as a physician is to first do no harm, and I argue that every person who works in a hospital follows that ethos. We all work there for a reason. We like to take care of people, and it's not just the providers who are doing it, it's all the folks who work in administration. And so the big challenges that we see is in our day-to-day lives as practitioners. We talked about efficiency before, we talked about access, is things move at a pace that's very different in the non-for-profit world than it is in the for-profit world. And one of the biggest gaps that we have is the expectation from many of the startups that we speak with about being able to roll in the door and set something up and just get it running. You need to have clinical champions. You need to have physicians, nurses, or administrators who work in those clinical spaces who have the expertise to help guide your vision to make sure that it's applicable to what you're trying to accomplish. You could have the greatest technology in the world that'll help, every patient get 4 or 5 X, Y, or Zs, but if it adds 3 steps to a physician's workload every day, not a single doctor will ever accept that technology, because we're already under so much pressure to produce in terms of our volumes of patients, our productivity, and the time constraint placed on the amount of interaction and that kind of sacred time that we have with our patients. The more that you put on our plate, the harder it is for us, to be efficient. So we need to find ways to work closely in evolving the ideas so that they actually work within the system and they bring us closer to our patients instead of taking us further away, even though in theory it seems though we are getting closer.
And Brian, just to sort of dig a little deeper on that, what about the mix of like Medicaid? Omkar alluded to it, but can you talk about that? Because it does affect the margins.
Certainly, most pediatric hospitals in general across this country, pediatric hospitals take care of about 50% Medicaid patients. Omkar is, he said, in the 70s. We're about 65%. So when we're talking about margin and we're talking about availability of funds to invest in new technologies, it's really challenging. So to the concept of philanthropy, the concept of really validating tools and understanding that maybe we can't go full scale to begin with, but small pilots where we have clinical investment from practitioners, it really does play a significant role in affecting our speed to market. But I would agree, I think, with all the panelists here that that's a good thing in healthcare, right? We don't want to just be the next great thing and then not. We want to be the best thing that we can be for all of our patients.
Right. And now, obviously, when you're dealing with a teenager, even at home, as a parent, you want to limit sort of how much screen time they have, how much technology they're allowed to use. But the tech, many of these apps are tech-based. Omkar, can you talk a little bit about the difference in pediatrics versus adult when it comes to tech, like, sort of the legal issues that, and maybe Charlotte, you might want to touch on the ethical issues.
Sure. So first thing, kids are not just small adults, right? So it's important to remember that. And a lot of people, it sounds silly, but it's different. When you're designing a solution, especially if it's a patient-facing solution, tricky things to think about. And if you have kids of your own, or if you know kids, you can think about this. How many 5-year-olds are walking around with their own smartphone? Probably not very many, but I see so many people that are pitching solutions that the 5-year-old would be accessing and playing with a game. Great, who's going to give them that smartphone, and do parents really want it? As you get older, there's definitely challenges around access to health information and the rights that teenagers, kids ages 12 to 18 have, and it varies state by state, which creates more challenges around access to health information. Specifically, in California, especially in many states, teenagers can choose for their parents not to have access to their health information at the age of 12, 12 through 18. And so that creates a lot of challenges around what information can be shared. Do you create a separate version for teens, a separate version for parents? And the last thing I'll point to is, at the end of the day, when you're working with pediatrics, you're actually designing solutions for, if it's patient-facing, for 2 audiences. One is the patient, but you're really designing the solution for the parent. And so you need to think about kind of this duality of what the user experience looks like from a app perspective, because they're very different. So just keep that in mind.
And what about ethical? What about the ethical issues around tech for kids? Or Dennis, does anyone want to touch on that?
I'm not really sure I want to talk about the ethical issues. It's just that I will kind of reiterate some of what Omkar said, is when you're looking at the market for adults versus children, there is the issue on the adult side that, if you're looking at business, you're looking at numbers and market share, you're going to focus on innovating for adults and then perhaps looking at the pediatric market later. And what we find with startups and other companies coming in is that they'll just present a downsized version of the adult device or product or drug. And the way children interact with the product and their family need to interact with it are very different from the way an adult interacts with that. So it really urge startups, I understand when people want to focus on the adult market, but if you decide to enter the pediatric market first as your first entry, or second after you've approached the adult market, you really have to put yourself in kind of a framework of the child who's growing into a teenager and how that technology will adapt. I think Amkar is right. I think lots of the technologies we see are based on the smartphone, and that's fine because it's very accessible and works well, but it really is not the cradle-to-grave solution, and we really need other platforms to reach those children and really impact their health. So we want to partner with you on that, and it helps if you're thinking about that as you come to us, and we can do our part to help advance the technologies.
I will just throw the one piece on the ethical piece of it. You have to understand that in healthcare in general, we are governed by a little bit different set of rules in terms of how we can and can't initiate pilots and go through with studies. And in particular, although it shouldn't be this way, it shouldn't be that we quote unquote care more about a child than we do a 65-year-old who's got a chronic condition. And fortunately in healthcare, sometimes we get that perspective, but at the end of the day, we are all held to a higher standard in terms of the IRB, in terms of the ability to actually push a trial through, whether it be a small pilot or a very large-scale drug trial. And those are all things that also have to be on the back burner as you're thinking about designing your tools.
Yeah, great. That gets us to our next question, really, is that I don't want to insult anyone in the room, especially not the startups, but generally startups have this awesome content and tech expertise, but they don't often understand sort of the larger working of a healthcare system. Dennis, do you want to comment on that a little bit? Like what advice, what sort of insight can you give beyond what we've already heard today on how startups can really start to understand the complex system in which you work?
Well, I think that what you would find is healthcare has a very different culture to it, and multiple subcultures. Physicians are different from nurses, are different from the suits, but we all have these aligning characteristics. But those cultural aspects do both impede and enhance the opportunities that exist. Secondly, the framework in which we are going to operate is always going to be what's best for the kids in front of me, and what's best for the kids that we serve right now, and how is this going to help us? So, to Amkar's example, you can throw out a plethora of ideas and test them in a lot of environments, and I can have 6 different apps on my phone to order food and then try them all and decide which one I like. I can't really do that if it's a medical app. Right? So we've got to get it right, and that's going to be frustrating at times.
Right. Yeah. Anyone else on sort of Brian? Sort of the leveling the expectations, and if you could comment on that phrase I love that you say was the sacred encounter.
Yeah. So we have to come up with solutions that bring us closer to our patients in a setting where we're getting further and further away from them. As Dennis talked about, taking care of patients outside the hospital is a very big drive from a healthcare cost perspective. And so finding solutions that allow us to have engagement with technology that are effective and efficient for providers and effective and efficient for patients. And the sacred encounter, meaning that actual one-on-one time or one-on-family time that we have with our patients and their families. We talk about it at UH, something called the hypotenuse, right? So you have a triangle, right? So you have patient here, you have technology, you have provider. The easiest way to do that is a straight line and put the patient and the provider together, right? It's really hard to do that with technology sometimes. And I think that perspective is really important. We want to bring everybody closer together in a world where we're pushing them apart. And that's a really challenging thing.
I'll agree and add one last piece of advice. So I've worked in both the adult and pediatric space, and what I'll tell you that I love about the pediatric space is everybody that works in a pediatric organization, administration, staff, clinicians, everybody is incredibly mission focused. They are all there because they care about kids and want to make sure they can provide the absolute best care for kids. When I say that, it is insulting when a startup will come and pitch and not having done much homework around what's different about pediatrics and what's unique about the kids, and they kind of just pitch an adult solution and say, yeah, we could probably do 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, without really having thought through some of this. Remember, the people that have gone into pediatrics, they didn't just decide one day, I'm going to stop working on adults, I'm just going to work on kids. Their whole profession, their whole career, their whole mission in life is focused on helping children. And so I think it's helpful for startups to work with folks like Plug and Play and others to really understand what is pediatric healthcare and how can their solution really custom fit the needs of that space and build pitches and decks and presentations really focused on that. I can't tell you how many times that we've been turned off by great companies who just haven't spent time to prepare for a pediatric audience.
Charlotte, I know you wanted to talk about the flip side, though. It's not just the startups. The onus is also on the industry.
Right, exactly. I was going to say, it's really also important that we let you know how to work with us, how to access us. Like, who do you call at Stanford or Gillette to pitch your innovation? What are our expectations? If we decide to work with you, then what is that path going to look like? And so I think it's very incumbent upon us and our fellow children's hospitals to provide some kind of framework for you to help you to be more successful, because we are very much open to these new ideas, and we want to see a lot of activity in the pediatric healthcare innovation space. So I really think it's important that we enable you as well. I'm not sure if this is a good time to talk about some of the other events and things we have coming up for innovation, but there is a national organization that many of our hospitals are a member of, including CHLA and Stanford and others, Impact Pediatric Health. We host an event at South by Southwest each year. This year, we are going to focus on providing information for startups who want to work with hospitals. Our day is March 14th in Austin, so hopefully some of you can come out for that. And then also on March 30th, Stanford Children's Health is hosting its 3rd annual Pediatric Innovation Showcase, and we'll be featuring also a pitch competition with our UCSF Stanford Pediatric Device Consortium. And it was a great event last year, and we're expecting even more this year, so I hope some of you will apply for that and come out for that as well. Thanks.
Great. Dennis, can you give that example?
Yeah, so a great example of what Charlotte was just talking about is we had a company out of LA, I can't remember their name, sorry, but that was doing virtual reality, and they wanted to utilize it in the healthcare space. And we had people who were a little resistant on the inside and stuff, but we were able to get a team together and say, no, let's give this a shot. And we put our research team on it, collaborating with the firm out of LA, and we were able to conduct studies, under IRB studies, and prove and demonstrate value in terms of reduced need for pain medication, reduced anxiety, improved recovery time, and stuff in kids pre and post major interventions, because we were able to partner with this company. So we are willing to work with you, but it is a matter of give us the right hook and we will clear the path.
Awesome, good.
Can I?
Please.
I think that we've given a lot of kind of direct, hey, think about the kids, think about the kids. So taking care of kids is humbling. Taking care of kids is a privilege, but taking care of kids is a lot of fun because we get to take care of them and their family. So we want you guys to come work with us because it's fun. It's a great environment to be in. Yes, we have our challenges, but when we work together, we will honestly change the landscape of how we care for children across the world.
And I'll end on that one last note. The people who work in pediatric healthcare are a ton of fun as well. Think of your pediatrician growing up. Think of a whole hospital filled with pediatricians just as nice as that. So they're great people. It's a great organizations, and we're actually really thirsty to partner with startups. Often, we don't get as much love as we'd like, and we want to get more, and we want to partner with you and figure out how we can do more things, because kids need just as much help as adults, and we'd love to figure out ways to work with you.
That's great. Just very quickly in the last minute, we're obviously at a pivotal point in this country. We're still providing medical care rather than health care, which is keeping people healthy, but innovation will play a huge role in the next 5 years. So Dennis, give us your kind of advice that you were telling me about, the advice you give to everybody.
Yeah, 2 things. First, I didn't mean to be all doom and gloom with the economic stuff. There's going to be a lot of new value pools created in this transition. Some of the existing value pools will shrink, but a whole bunch of new ones are going to open up, and that's where your field of play is. You know, I'm not a physician, but I've worked in healthcare long enough that people always ask me advice, and my advice is always go to the least clinical environment possible and always get a second opinion, you know. And if you can keep that in mind as you're thinking about it, you know, what care can and should be delivered in a non-clinical environment, but how can you then facilitate that interaction, that sacred interaction that Brian is talking about when it needs to happen.
Cool. And Charlotte, can you just wrap us up with kind of the social determinants and how they need to align?
Yeah, definitely. I would really say that the incentives for managing healthcare and keeping people healthy versus managing disease after its onset, really you have to align kind of the, not only the value of that of maintaining good health, but also the way the incentives are aligned currently. So typically with startups, when you're developing a new innovation, you're looking to see if it's going to be covered by certain codes so you can be reimbursed, and most of those are kind of on the managing disease side versus maintaining healthcare side. So there really needs to be a lot of changes, big lifts in Washington and other places with the regulations and things that impact healthcare and the way people are paid and the incentives for creating new innovations. And so that's I think a big lift, but a lot of us are very involved in lobbying and talking to the FDA and talking to others about making things easier and more aligned so that we really can make big, huge changes in children's healthcare.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to our panel. And as you can see, healthcare in pediatrics is complex. There's a unique set of sort of guidelines, but it can also be fun, and they're very willing to work with startups. So thanks for your time today, especially to our panel and for flying in from far away, near and far. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Did everybody enjoy that? Was that great? Yeah, great job to everybody who's doing it and to Jennifer. As somebody who actually spent a year volunteering at CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, doing clinical research, children's hospitals are amazing places to be. What they're able to do for children and what they're able to do to help their lives are incredible. But with that, for our keynote speaker, I'm incredibly excited to announce Liz, the co-executive director for Alex's Lemonade. But what she's most proud of is being a mother to 3 young boys and 1 daughter. So Liz, please, we're excited.
Thank you so much. I am very excited to be here among you all who are dedicating your careers and your products and your brains to helping children. I'm going to go through a little bit of our story, I guess, from the patient family side, and then a little bit about what our organization, Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, is doing to innovate to new cures for kids with cancer. I got it. I'm not so good doing 2 different things with 2 hands, so bear with me. So this is my daughter, Alex. She was our 2nd child, born in 1996, and she was diagnosed with pediatric cancer, neuroblastoma, specifically before she even turned 1, 2 days before her first birthday. Each of these pictures here, which is why I like to show this slide, she was living with cancer. And that's really important because she, I think, probably exemplifies what most children with cancer and chronic conditions do, which is a real zest for life and an incredible spirit and generosity to help others. So here she is, diagnosed before she turns 1, with cancer that was curable but aggressive, and would go on for the next 3 years to basically burn through every known cure, surgery, radiation therapy, all of the known chemotherapies that could potentially cure her. So here we were now facing a 3, almost 4-year-old girl and being told that there was no cure. She was considered incurable at this point. And our family lived in Hartford, Connecticut. We had already been to Boston for a second opinion. We had been to New York for a third opinion. And they had never exactly agreed on the next step, and here they were, all three of them, telling us there was nothing more to be done. At this point, we had another son, too, who was just a baby. We had a very young family, and couldn't imagine that this was it, that this was going to be all we had to offer our daughter. So we started making phone calls, and fortunately found a doctor at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and this speaks to the access you were talking about before, who had some new innovative treatments that he was trying for children with relapsed or refractory neuroblastoma, and he thought Alex would be a candidate. And what he told us back then, nobody had said this honestly. I can't tell you I'm going to cure her, but I know I can give her more time, and it can be good time. And we jumped at that opportunity. So we started traveling from Hartford, Connecticut to Philadelphia, again, speaking to the problem of access, which we're trying to address in a relatively small way that we can as an organization. For a year, we traveled back and forth. That very first experimental treatment is really important in our lives because she was actually the second child to receive it. It was back then, one of the early targeted therapies, MIBG therapy, radioactive iodine, that neuroblastoma cells soak up, and they would make them even hyper-radioactive, so her tumor would soak it up, and it would disappear. She was the second child to receive this, which is a pretty standard therapy now. She went into the hospital on pain medicine. It was in her bones. It was all throughout her body. She left the hospital 3 days later after being in isolation for 3 days because she was radioactive. All smiles. You'd think she would come out. She's not even distraught and in tears, but also speaks to the fun and amazing people who work at children's hospitals who made her experience bearable. And she said, "Mommy, that treatment worked. Let's go shopping," because that's what she liked to do when she was feeling good. But that was such a big moment because she was right. She always knew how she felt. Scans, of course, were done and confirmed that her tumor burden, as they called it, had been reduced by 70%. Nothing had done that for her. This was over 3 days. And it really set us on a path that leads me here today. So shortly after that, Alex, we're back in Connecticut, traveling back and forth. It's January in Connecticut. It's freezing. And she starts talking about having a lemonade stand. And I didn't think much of it. I had 2 other young children, and, as we can do as parents, yeah, sure. Kept putting her off. 6 months she talked about this lemonade stand. Finally, in June of 2000, she's 4.5, and she says, "Mommy, we still haven't had my lemonade stand, and now it's hot out," because my excuse was it's not good weather. And I said, "Alex, what do you want to buy? Let's just buy it." I didn't want to deal with the lemonade stand. And she said, "I'm not keeping the money. I'm giving it to my doctor so they can help kids the way they helped me." And that was really the beginning of what would become Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. I, of course, was so proud. This was not something children were doing in 2000. I think Alex really helped put that idea on the map for kids, that you could do a lemonade stand and give the money away. And in fact, I thought it was adorable because Alex always had big plans. She was going to be an astronaut, but she was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and she was going to be an artist, and maybe she could win American Idol. So here she was. Now she's going to cure cancer with a lemonade stand. And I said, "Alex, that's great, but you're going to raise $5 or $10. It's going to be really hard to cure cancer with a lemonade stand." And she said, "I don't care. I'll do it anyways." Well, that day she raised $2,000. It was such a life-changing day when we saw how people wanted to help. And at the end of the day, I thought it was too much. She didn't like the attention. It was really hot out. She wasn't feeling well. I said, "What did you think?" And she said, "It was the best thing that ever happened to me." And I knew then that this was not cute. This meant something to her. What I didn't know is that she would go on to continue doing this. We ended up moving to Philadelphia, so that speaks to the access issue. And in fact, we have a platform where we survey families of children with cancer. 3,000 families have completed it. And we were even surprised, having lived it, that 60% of the parents in that survey say they moved because of their child's childhood cancer diagnosis. 60%. And we were one of them. So we moved to Philadelphia. We took our family down there. She starts talking about having a lemonade stand again. I did not know this was going to be an annual thing. Well, once we moved to Philly, you can see I put her off again. Here she is in mittens and a hat in October. But the next year, she got on my case and said she wanted to have her stand when it was nice weather. She ended up raising $12,000 in our front yard, $15,000 in our front yard. And the most incredible thing that happened was people all over the country heard about her and started sending donations. And not just donations, but kids started having their own lemonade stands and sending the money to her. And that really inspired her. And I think it gave her a bigger idea. I should mention in this time, the day after we moved there, she was put on a new chemotherapy that got her down to minimal disease, the best couple years of her life. She did really well on it. She went a full year without staying overnight in the hospital, but nothing had worked. So 2003, things were starting to look bad. But by 2004, things were really rough, and her cancer had spread to her lungs and her liver, and we knew there was really no turning back. She wanted to be treated, even though she was only 8 at this point. She was more like a teenager, versed in what was happening with her, and was included in a lot of the decisions. She wanted to be treated, and she had a lot of, if there's doctors here, you'll appreciate this, a lot of criteria. It couldn't make her sick. She didn't want to lose her hair, which was funny because she really didn't have any at this point. She didn't want to lose her hair. It couldn't affect her counts, which was also funny because she had no platelets, so everything affected her counts. But we managed to keep giving her something, and that was important to her. She really believed that that cure was out there, if not for her, for other kids. But the most incredible thing she did at the end of her life, when she was so sick, was we weren't talking about a lemonade stand. It was January, and she was not doing well. And she got on the phone with a reporter and told them she was going to raise $1 million. And when they said, "How are you going to raise $1 million, Alex?" she said, "Well, if everybody has lemonade stands, I think we can do it." And that really became a movement. Believe it or not, on the day of her last stand, which we still have, there were stands all over the country, and it was called Lemonade Days. That was her idea. We still do that event every year. There are people who just sign up to do lemonade stands in their neighborhood, at their schools, at their workplace. And together, we try to raise $1 million, and we always do. Now we're raising more than that through that event. But she reached her goal. By the middle of July, we were able to tell her that she was going to raise her $1 million. And she died 10 days later. And at the time, I thought, I'm so glad she got to see her goal met. But obviously, she was really hanging on. And she wanted to make sure that this would continue without her. These are some of those early stands. Kids making signs and just getting out in their front yards. So what's happened since? Alex passed away in 2004, 15 years ago plus. Today, Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation has grown into one of the largest funders of pediatric cancer research and probably the largest provider of family services in the country. I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact we're having, but basically we want to change the lives of children with cancer and their families, and we do that by funding life-saving research, ultimately treatments that have less side effects, because kids are not small adults, which I'm glad you said that, and we need to do better for them instead of just applying adult treatments to kids, and some great family services and some really innovative things. Also, really proud that we've been growing really steadily, about 10 to 15% a year, and still managed to kind of keep all the expenses in balance. And Charity Navigator not only named us a four-star charity 11 years in a row, but last year named Alex's Lemonade as one of the top 10 medical research organizations in the country. So that was a pretty big deal because they rate about 9,000 organizations. So all this doesn't really matter if we're not making a difference. So I want to spend my last few minutes talking about a few things we're doing. We fill gaps. You know, that came up a lot. There's a lot of gaps and a lot of needs in the space of pediatric research. We fill gaps, everything from early innovative science in the lab, where there's an idea that could potentially have some proof of concept and then get larger funding, all the way through to first-in-children biological therapies and clinical trials. We fund infrastructure at hospitals so that they can efficiently run clinical trials for children with cancer. This slide shows just 4 of the kids, but 4 kids that we know personally who have all basically been cured or put into remission long-term through something we funded. And some of them were really early innovative awards, just kind of trying to see if something would work, and have now come all the way through to FDA approval. Some of them was through an infrastructure grant we funded, where the UCSF, for example, we fund a huge infrastructure there. They're able to really efficiently run trials for children with cancer. And we pay for those to make sure that it happens as quickly as possible. We also fund psychosocial research, looking at survivorship issues, which were mentioned. We also look at disparities in healthcare based on language, socioeconomic, cultural, racial differences. For this audience, I thought it would be fun and interesting to talk about a couple things we're doing more recently. So for years, we created these grant programs, and we put out RFPs, and we get hundreds and hundreds of applications. And I should mention, trust me, we don't review these applications. We have about 120 scientists who review and score them in a peer review process and discuss them. And that's great, and we've had some progress. But now that we're raising more money, we thought we have the opportunity to really address some bigger gaps. And one of the first ones that became apparent to us was data. All the data that's out there that's being collected, that's not being shared, and it's not really usable. So in 2017 in Philadelphia, we hired a team of data scientists. The director is a PhD in computational biology who was out of the University of Pennsylvania, machine learning lab there. And his co-director has a PhD in genetics. And they have a team of software engineers, user experience, biostatisticians. And they have tackled some of the most pressing problems in data out there. The most exciting thing that I think they've done is they've created a refinery, and if any of you work with data, or I'm sure you have people who do work with research data, this refinery has taken all of the publicly available data, 1.9 million data sets, and they have built a way to refine and harmonize that data, and it's all publicly available. It's called refine.bio. You could go on there. You can download data sets. They are up now to almost 1.3 harmonized data sets available. They have keywords. You can search for keywords. You can find over 300 different species. About 500,000 or so are cancer related, but all diseases are on there. So it's a really valuable tool. And they're taking it a step further and training pediatric oncologists to use it and how to design experiments and how to use their data. When we surveyed many of our PIs, we learned that they were spending about 30% of their time with data, trying to figure out the data, trying to find relevant data to compare theirs to, trying to analyze their data. So this is what literally lets them do it in minutes, hours to minutes, depending on what they're looking for. We also have a team who's there to help them. We've hosted workshops all over the country, including one that the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative sponsored here. We invite researchers to come in and spend 3 days learning how to use this tool and how to design better experiments for data. Super exciting. We also do collaborations where they will take what they've learned, what this tool they've created, and apply it to other systems that might have patient data that we can't have because it's private and we're not set up for that. And then the other exciting thing we're doing, in my last minute I want to cover 2 more things, is the Krazy-8 Initiative. So, you know, one of the things we realized that it's great that we're encouraging innovation and funding the best ideas, but you wouldn't run a business by just saying, oh, we're going to solve a problem. We're not sure how we're going to solve it. We're just going to let other people tell us. So we decided we need to do something bigger. And the Krazy-8 Initiative grew out of these 8 topics, 8 hard-to-cure pediatric cancers that we came up with. We surveyed 4,000 researchers and found the top 10 thought leaders in each topic, brought them to Philadelphia. Literally almost everybody came. And from that grew this idea that we could create these huge collaborations. We put out an RFP. We were hoping to get 40. These are up to $5 million projects. We've committed to funding $25 million over the next 5 years. We got 110, so this shows you the need out there. 110, 100 of them were past the LOI phase, so really good stuff. And looking at these topics, the developmental origins of pediatric cancer, because it truly is a developmental disease, drugging the undruggable, things like MICA that have been elusive for years, developing novel immunotherapies, and also identifying new targets. So exciting stuff. We're going to be awarding those in February or March of next year. And then last, but certainly not least, we help families directly. And our largest program is a Travel for Care, which is really a Band-Aid on the access problem, but it's had a significant difference on these families' lives. We, last year, helped 800 families get to clinical trials, get access to treatments away from home, innovative therapies away from home. We have people on staff who book airfare for them, book hotels for them. They put no money out up front. Social workers refer them to us, and we're able to very quickly, sometimes the very same day, book them and get them where they need to go and support them during the duration of their stay. This young man here shows you a little impact. A little money can have a huge impact. He came to us on Thanksgiving in 2016. He needed to get to New York to potentially save his leg and his hip from a full amputation. He was told he would not only not walk, but he would need a colostomy the rest of his life if he survived his relapsed bone cancer. And mom was at her wit's end because she couldn't get him there. It was Thanksgiving Tickets were thousands of dollars. They needed to stay for 3 weeks. She's a single mom. She hadn't worked in 2 years because of being able to care for her child, the demands of it. We were able to book them that day. They got to New York. We didn't hear from them again. And oftentimes we assume the worst because usually families are going back and forth for a while. Well, we got a call from Mom in May saying, I had to call you because you were there when we needed you. And I just found out that Rick, he now has been accepted at 12 colleges, and he just got offered a full scholarship to Seton Hall to study computer science. There he is meeting his idol, Bill Gates. And she said, and literally, I don't believe he would be doing that if it wasn't for you guys taking that call on Thanksgiving and getting us where we needed to go. We also support siblings of children with cancer. Again, pediatric diseases affect the whole family. And we have a really great series of childhood cancer reference books, and it's all free online for caretakers of children with cancer. So I ran through that quickly, and I know my time is up, but we always like to say we work to put ourselves out of business, which is both great that we can say that and work towards that, but it's also daunting to think that we could potentially in our lifetime cure pediatric cancer and solve a lot of the problems and hopefully be able to finish what Alex started. So in closing, one final quick story, because I'm always grateful for the opportunity to share, and it speaks to our organization and how we believe that every single person can make a difference in this fight and are grateful for every single person who says they want to get involved. Alex, at the end of her life, was super sick and was having a terrible day after 10 terrible days and had to go to the emergency room once again at 1 a.m. And my husband put her in the car and just said, I'm sorry. And she said, for what? And he said, for everything, because there's really nothing left to say at that point. And she didn't hesitate. She didn't stop for 1 second. She said, if there's one thing you should know about me, I'm happy for what I have, not unhappy for what I don't have. And that was really powerful at that moment when she could have screamed and swore and said, I hate you, and everything is terrible. To say that and to have that grace and that strength and that perspective. And I think, it was a gift to me, obviously, as a mom, but it's really been the way our organization has carried forward her legacy, is to really appreciate every single person who wants to care for children with cancer and wants to help be a part of the solution. So on that note, I will say I'm going to be around at the reception and the dinner tonight. If you want to stop by and talk to me, we have a zillion ways companies can get involved. We can partner on some innovative things. We have employee engagement opportunities. If you have something you want to do with Alex's, I promise you we can figure out a way to do it together. So thank you for giving me your time, and enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to meeting some of you later on.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Ava Ascari. I am the program manager for health here in Silicon Valley. We are going to get started with our startup pitches. So I've had the pleasure of working with these 16 startups over the course of the last 3.5 months. Before we kick things off, just a few housekeeping items. We're going to get through these pitches pretty quickly, so there'll be rapid fire pitches for 3 minutes. One after another. A few things. So on the back of your badges, there are a few links. There's a link to an event brochure with a QR code. So keep in mind that throughout all these pitches, take little notes. Some of you have the pocket guides in paper form. Keep in mind what your favorite startup is. At the very end of all the startup pitches, we'll have you guys all cast a vote on your favorite company, and we'll be announcing the People's Choice Award to one of the startups. So that's first line item. Second is there's a networking app for Brella. So if there's any companies that you wanted to connect with and network with afterwards, we actually have a reception going on right after this Health Expo upstairs on the 2nd floor in the event center. So with this app, you can connect and set up meetings with some of the startups that you found really interesting. And then the third is there's Wi-Fi information on the back. It should be PNP events, and there's no password. So with that, I'd like to introduce the first startup, Clara Health.
Hi, everyone. What a fantastic reminder from Alex's Lemonade stand about why we do everything that we do. And simply put, there aren't enough therapies today, enough effective therapies for all the conditions out there. In fact, if you were diagnosed with ALS today, you would have 2 FDA-approved treatment options. Neither will reverse damage done, nor will they substantially slow disease progression. Now, there are 89 other potential options in clinical trials that represent the best potential therapies that science has to offer. Unfortunately, it's incredibly difficult to access these clinical trials, and so most patients never do. At Clara Health, we've already helped hundreds of ALS patients access those clinical trials. We've helped thousands of patients with other medical conditions access many, many more. And it's not just those patients that we're helping. We're helping all of you in this room, all of your children, all of your grandchildren, anybody who could benefit from the eventual approval of these potential therapies that are in clinical trials today, because 80% of clinical trials fall behind schedule because of recruitment delays. And these same delays cause 30% of trial early terminations. So these are fantastic potential therapies that will never make their ways into the hands of patients simply because recruitment was taking too long to have a positive ROI. And this is obviously an incredibly important and expensive problem. It's one that the industry has spent billions of dollars on patient recruitment trying to solve, and this is actually the problem that Clara Health is solving today. So using Clara Health, patients are 5 times more likely to successfully screen and actually get connected to a trial site for a clinical trial. And by reaching and supporting more patients, we've helped our clients accelerate recruitment timelines by 200 to 400% across a variety of very challenging indications. We've done this by working directly with patients to create the world's easiest, most comprehensive, unbiased, and fully end-to-end platform for clinical trials, spanning 50,000 different clinical trials. We work with advocacy groups, patient influencers, healthcare platforms, search engines, social media to reach patients in ways that pharma can't. And then we do all of the heavy lifting to help those patients actually enroll into a clinical trial. The Clara Health platform handles automated pre-screening, medical record aggregation, remote digital consenting, visit scheduling, and we've even flown patients internationally, booked their lodging to help them access clinical trials that are relevant for them. My co-founder, Sol Chen, started this company, and 3 years ago, the founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel, gave her a grant to leave school and focus on this entirely. I joined her, leaving my PhD at MIT, focused in computational neuroscience, to work on this full time. And together with our team from Verily, Google, UCSF, Stanford, and more, we've raised capital from Coastal Ventures, Founders Fund, and many others. We're now finishing the final allocations of our Series A. Happy to speak about that. We're expanding the team internationally to meet market demand. And we're incredibly excited to finally be able to meet the demands of our customers and our patients to provide the Clara Health platform and experience, not just for clinical trials, but for every single facet of a patient's care. So if you're incredibly excited about putting patients at the center of the care, I'd love to speak with you. We're hiring across all departments here in San Francisco, across the US, and internationally as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Evan. And up next, we have Sorcero.
Hi, I'm Dee, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sorcero. So today we're seeing a renewed emphasis on evidence-based medicine for the life sciences industry. This has always been the case, but it is particularly important today because this is also accompanied by an increase in healthcare provider dissatisfaction with the quality of information they're getting in every interaction with life sciences companies. We find this to be particularly pertinent as Sorcero works to flip this model of technical work and make sure that the subject matter experts who are providing this real-world evidence to healthcare providers, patients, payers, and regulators are able to spend more time with the healthcare providers and considerably less time trying to access and organize the information that they're dealing with. So in our go-to-market, we serve the commercial arm of the life sciences company. And the way we do it is by supporting multiple functions that cover the medical affairs team. So we work today already with multiple pharma companies in field medical excellence, in medical information, in publications, in education, and in medical governance. Today, the workflow for the medical affairs teams looks something like this. Not only are they dealing with an explosion in unstructured technical data, they're also doing the vast majority of their work over email, which is both unscalable and unrepeatable. Now, the solution to this is domain-specific, contextually aware natural language processing built into applications to support subject matter experts with making better decisions. So with that, Sorcero is building an enterprise NLP platform that has domain-specific NLP that is focused purely on life sciences and insurance. It is no code and can be deployed by these subject matter experts. It's transparent and auditable, and it's also scalable because it's combining domain-specific NLP and enterprise-specific NLP as well. And this is what it looks like, something on the back end. For each of our applications, we take a slice of that platform on the back end, and on the front end, this is a very small glimpse into what some of our customers are able to do and use today. With medical affairs, we are able to reduce response times, improve messaging consistency, improve stakeholder satisfaction, but even more important, we're able to decrease a lot of misinformation that comes from using social media or online channels. This is our team. I've spent a little over a decade in digital transformation, bringing in new technologies from multinational corporations. Our CTO, Walter Bender, led the MIT Media Lab, but also co-founded and built the operating system for One Laptop Per Child. Our chief product officer scaled global product at Priceline through their IPO. And our chief marketing officer spent 24 years in selling information systems to healthcare and other regulated industries. We lead a team of 14 based in Washington, DC. So today, Sorcero is setting out to build a platform that serves the symbiotic industries of life sciences and insurance with a focus on decision-making and work functions that use the same data to the same end goal and is deployed by professionals with the same subject matter expertise. We are in multiple pilots today. Please come and talk to me after. Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks, Dee. Up next, we have Electra Labs.
Hey everyone, I'm Andy Corvos, and I'm the CEO of Electra, and I'm going to talk to you about the atlas that we are building. So at Electra, we work with pharma companies who are collecting digital endpoints in their clinical trials. And I'm curious, how many of you know somebody at a pharma company who is collecting a primary or secondary endpoint for regulatory submission using a digital product? Some of you might think this isn't happening, but there are over 15 pharma sponsors that are submitting to the FDA using these sorts of tools. And this has only started happening in the last couple years. I previously served at the FDA in the digital health unit, working on products like software as a medical device and the different types of software that the FDA is considering. And this is happening both on the devices side, but also for drug trials. And I'm going to talk to you about the drug trial side. Many clinical trials today, you will only collect a couple different pieces of data over the time when a patient comes into the experience. But there's a lot of data that we miss for all their experience at home. And so we support remote monitoring from decentralized clinical trials. And these sorts of trials can be really powerful. So as you figure out how somebody's walking, sleeping, living better at home, that can be a very different experience, and you can design your trials much differently so you can get more data faster. The question is, how do you actually know any of these tools are good? And how do you figure out which type of tool that you want to use? And so this is the problem that we've wanted to solve. All of these tools that people use remotely are connected to the internet. Anything that's connected to the internet, it's not if it gets hacked, but when. And so how do you deal with different types of security issues, data rights issues, privacy issues, and how do you evaluate the different types of products that you might consider? So we look at how to evaluate and deploy this different type of connected technology. We have two products. One is a catalog of all the different types of tools, and then a separate deployment mechanism. The catalog contains over 800 different types of sensors. It can be an Apple Watch, a Dexcom, a Philips, any different type of product that might often collect vital signs like sleep, quality of life. We have over 700 different measurements that you might consider, and you can think about this like Kelley Blue Book, where you're looking at the different types of tools. And then we create a way that you can evaluate all the different ones for a different clinical trial and evaluate which one is the most important for you. And we look at 3 different things. So we look at accuracy, the reliability of the data, the usability, and that's where most people stop. And our team also very much encourages you to think about the different types of security and the data rights and governance for that. And so as you're thinking about which tool you would use, it's not about a score of which one is the right tool or the wrong tool. It's about figuring out something like a nutrition label, where certain things are going to be more applicable for you and other ones might be less. And so we build that out over time. We publish a lot, and I'm happy to share these. We publish a lot of open source access journals. Our team ranges from software engineers, data scientists, people from FDA, and others. We are not fundraising right now. We recently announced a round last week, and we'd love to talk to you if you're actively considering using digital tools in your clinical trial. So thank you, and my information's open.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andy. Up next, we have Orbit Genomics.
Hi, I'm Dee Willis, the CEO of Orbit Genomics, and I have a confession. I've never taken a genetic test. Why? Because they measure population risk, not my individual risk, and the results wouldn't be actionable. If you're skeptical, let me illustrate. Breast cancer has the highest correlation with genetic mutations. They increase your disease risk from 12% to over 50%. But they don't tell you whether you're in the population that will actually get the disease or the one that won't. And not having a mutation doesn't mean I won't get breast cancer. Just 7% of patients have them. Because complex diseases are caused by both genetic mutations and environmental factors. At Orbit, we look at a different part of your DNA, called microsatellites. They uniquely reflect the risk you've acquired from living. We measure your individual risk. Lung cancer is the world's deadliest cancer and the only major one without a routine screening test. Our first product addresses this huge unmet need and demonstrated 93% sensitivity and 97% specificity in a pilot study. No other product approaches this accuracy. Feedback from clinicians and insurers have been extremely positive, and existing reimbursement codes can be used. The global market is projected to exceed $3 billion. Standard DNA sequencing algorithms don't accurately analyze microsatellites. Orbit's proprietary ones do. They're based on 20 years of research, which includes 5 NIH grants and 42 peer-reviewed publications. Our proprietary OrbiSeq platform analyzes microsatellites in blood or saliva and can be applied to any complex disease, including heart disease and Alzheimer's. We have the first test that can measure the effectiveness of lifestyle changes you make to improve your health, leading to disease prevention. Our efficient business model enables us to develop our products at half the average cost and time. Orbit's founding team has collectively co-founded 21 life science companies. We've had 17 successful exits, and we have over 100 years of combined leadership experience in diagnostics and genomics. And we're strongly supported by an incredible team of world-renowned scientists and business experts. We're currently raising a $4 million tranche to develop our commercial platform and conduct lung cancer clinical trials toward launching our first product in under 2 years. Imagine a simple test that not only tells you if you have elevated disease risk, but also whether lifestyle changes can reduce your risk. That's the promise of Orbit Genomics and why you should invest in us. I hope to speak to some of you after the talk. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dee Dee. So up next, we have Sidekick Health.
Hey, I'm Sam, and it's great to be here today to tell you how we at Sidekick transform disease management with our gamified digital therapeutics platform. My background is that I'm a medical doctor, and I'm also here to tell you that we have a tsunami of lifestyle and adherence-related diseases upon us. I remember the tipping point for me when working at the hospital. I had a patient with cardiovascular disease that was just getting worse under my care. And I was doing my job telling the patient, if you don't take your medication and improve your lifestyle, you'll increase the likelihood of a new heart attack by X% within Y years. Now, the patient nodded his head, but after the session, I looked outside the window and I saw the patient lighting a cigarette. I remember how I was sunk down in my seat, but then I realized that the patient was much more engaged with his smartphone than it was with me. And I knew I had to go digital. So that's why we created Sidekick, the patient's own little helper in the pocket. We have a B2B business model, and we focus on helping leading pharmaceutical companies and health insurers improve their financial performance by improving adherence and health outcomes, improving market access, and we provide them with real-time data. The secret behind our success is that on the surface, it looks like a game where you get points and rewards for sticking to your treatment. But under the hood, we have coded behavioral triggers and data analytics that keep improving that retention of the platform with each generation of it. And that's by building on our own unique database from over 30,000 patients with over 50 million data points that we use to train our AI to personalize and thereby maximize motivation. It has some advanced reward mechanisms, like when patients reach their goals, they earn water, which we then donate to children in need through charity partners. What makes us unique is that Sidekick is created by healthcare for healthcare. So we're combining behavioral science, clinical excellence with some amazing talent from the gaming and tech side. What our customers especially appreciate is our evidence base, like this randomized controlled trial we conducted at Harvard University, showing that patients with Sidekick are 3 times more likely to reach the weight loss goals, and they have 30% better treatment adherence. They also love our industry-leading engagement metrics, engaging diverse populations, including the elderly. We've done multiple studies, including this one showing dramatic improvements in blood glucose control. And here's some new data from working with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, where we showed that our smart medication reminders significantly improved medication adherence. Now, coming to an end, these are very exciting times for my company, as during Plug and Play, we have expanded our collaboration with Pfizer, now offering our product in 6 therapeutic areas in multiple countries, in addition to securing success with Bayer as a top 10 pharma and global cardiovascular unit. Now, we are growing fast. We had 3x revenue growth this year. We're foreseeing 5x next year, just based on our signed agreements going into 8 disease verticals. And I would like to thank Plug and Play. And to capture this momentum, we will be seeking a strategic investor to join our existing investors for an A round of $10 million closing in Q1. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. Up next, we have Septo Medical.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tao Zhang. I'm very excited to present to you how Septo Medical uses AI to improve radiology quality, efficiency, and patient satisfaction. We are a small team based in Menlo Park. We have, including practicing radiologists, AI experts, and imaging scientists from these institutions. What separates us from other medical imaging AI companies, we focus on the acquisition side of the radiology workflow. The reason we focus on that part is we believe that we have direct impact on patient safety and comfort, and we can also provide immediate financial value for hospitals and imaging centers. We've participated in previous plug-and-play sessions, and since then, we have made tremendous progress. And last year, we launched the first product that's FDA cleared and CE marked. That's for 4-time speed up on PET acquisition. And this year, just a couple months ago, we received a second FDA clearance on AI software that can improve the quality for MRI exams. And right now, we received $1.6 million from NIH grant to drive the commercialization and development of SuttleGet, the third product that focuses on reducing the dose of gadolinium contrast-enhanced MRI. And these products are all implemented in the SaaS model, where we use post-processing software to boost the quality. We're currently working with these institutions to engage for clinical partners as well as customers to further improve our products. I just want to give you a quick introduction on how SuttlePET works that can enable 4 times faster PET-CT exams. This is traditionally how PET-CT exam is done. The patient has to be lying in the scanner for 18 minutes or sometimes even longer, and the images coming out of the scanner is shown on the right, which we consider as a ground truth. Using SuttlePET, we first shorten the scan time by 4 times, and this is the images coming out of the scanner. As you can see, the quality is reduced, it's noisy, it's non-diagnostic. What we're able to do is to use the software, SuttlePET, that enhance the quality of these images, so it's comparable to the longer acquisition. So in this case, we scan 4 times faster, but not losing the image quality that's coming from the longer scan. And here's a case study we did with Hoke Hospital, which is our first customer. Using the SuttlePET scan, they were able to improve their throughput by 60%, shown on the red graph, and there's a clear evidence of ROI. We did another case study with Middlesex Health in Connecticut, focused on patient experience. And here's some direct patient testimonials from the patients that have been through the SuttlePET scans. This is amazing, very pleasant and short compared to my previous scan. And some patients cannot hold still in the previous scans, but with SuttlePET, they're able to enjoy a comfortable scan using 6 minutes. And this is another testimonial from the head of radiology at UCSF, Chris Hess. He said the deep learning solutions were provided really define the negotiation between exam and imaging quality. We believe our solution can provide better care for patients as well as better access for MRI and PET exams and financial value for imaging centers and hospitals. And finally, just touch upon the Pediatric Healthcare today. We have done study with Stanford Research Group and focused on reducing the dose, radiation dose for PET exams, and we were able to show 4 times lower dose for PET exams for pediatric cancer patients. I think this will have tremendous impact for the future of how we image cancer patients in pediatric populations. Thank you very much. I look forward to talk to some of you today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tao. And up next, we have Saliency AI.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Thomas of Saliency AI. We enable pharmaceutical companies and contract research organizations to leverage artificial intelligence in their research and development, as well as in their clinical trials. Most image analysis tasks within clinical trials could be automated, but they usually aren't because it requires a tremendous amount of overhead. You need to aggregate and organize a variety of heterogeneous data sources from different hospitals. A tremendous amount of resources are poured into gathering clinician assessments for thousands of medical data points. And then you need to develop a user interface in order to allow people to then use these automation tools. So to fix this, we provide an end-to-end data science pipeline that first automates the process of aggregating and organizing those heterogeneous data sets from a variety of different hospitals. And then it provides a dashboard and API for visualizing and centering this. We minimize the portion of data that then needs to be analyzed by experts before our system automatically labels the rest. And then we enable you to deploy your automation tools in the form of a HIPAA-compliant web app that physicians and biomedical researchers can use as easily as dragging and dropping the image into the app to get it analyzed. This pipeline reduces many of the pain points currently found in clinical trials. By automating many of the quality control processes, we reduce costs and speed up clinical trials. And we also help reduce the variability and subjectivity seen across radiologists and help speed up the time required for them to assess each image. And by increasing the sophistication of image analyses that can be done in clinical trials, we also improve the probability of drugs getting approved. Our product can work with any type of imaging data, and the diversity of data sets that our tools are trained on throughout many hospitals across a variety of clinical trials sets us up in the long run to also start serving hospitals. Besides other data platforms, ours is different because we don't need access to our customers' data in order to do all of this. And because we have an end-to-end data science pipeline, our tools are greater than the sum of their parts. Customers do not want to have to move their data sets from one location to another in order to get them analyzed, and they don't want to have to chain together a bunch of tools that don't communicate well, and we get rid of all of this. In terms of our team, I'm an MD, PhD candidate at Stanford in biomedical informatics, and my co-founder, Lucas Kudzinski, has graduate degrees in computer science and statistics, and he's a postdoctoral fellow in bioengineering at Stanford. And our advisors are thought leaders in the fields of quantitative medical image analysis and bioengineering. We've launched a successful pilot, and we're currently arranging more. And because we don't need access to our customers' data, these pilots are extremely fast and easy to launch, so we'd love to talk with you about those. We're also seeking pre-seed funding, so if you're an early-stage VC, it would also be great to connect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. Up next, we have Meru Health.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Hine, and I'm Vice President of Meru Health, and I'm pleased to talk to you about the new standard of mental health care. So many of us here are here for both business and personal reasons, and I'm no exception. As they say, your mess becomes your message. I'm one of the many people who is highly functioning in technology but has suffered from years of depression and anxiety, much like many of my colleagues. So it's 1 in 5 of us, technically. 1 in 5 of your coworkers, 1 in 5 of your friends, 1 in 5 of your patients that are suffering from depression, anxiety, or burnout, and less than 50% of us are typically getting the help that we need. The obstacles are kind of still mind-blowing because it's almost 2020 and we still have stigma associated with mental health. I say if you have a physical body, you're gonna have physical health challenges. If you have a brain, you're gonna have mental health challenges. And we need to start talking about this in a more open and honest way. In addition, because of the stigma and the barriers, a lot of people are having a hard time getting help. And the treatments that do exist, while they do help some people, they don't help everybody. So we've got to come up with some new innovations. And that's what my colleagues and I are doing at Meru Health. I want to share a really cool case study. This is a Silicon Valley tech employee who went on disability because of their depression. Not uncommon at all. In fact, depression is the #1 cause of disability for employers. We started this participant on our program, and within the first 2 weeks, they were up and running with our Meru therapist and our digital solution. By week 10 of our 12-week program, they returned to work, and their PHQ-9 depression score went down by 95%. So what are we? We're a clinically proven treatment for depression, anxiety, and burnout. And most recently, we were awarded the Best Mental Health Company by the UCSF Digital Health Awards. Kind of a big deal, so we're proud of that. So here are quickly the treatment features: smartphone application, several different components to the methodology, cognitive behavioral therapy, behavioral activation therapy, and we're the first company in the world to incorporate heart rate variability biofeedback with a mobile device treatment for depression, burnout, and anxiety, meaning that people can actually see a result from their practices, which inspires them to keep going. Every participant that goes through our program is accompanied by a licensed therapist. They go through with an anonymous peer group. It's so important that we don't feel alone on our journey towards mental wellness. And we have measurable results throughout, and psychiatry support. Are we successful? Yes. Participants get into the program within 2 weeks. 89% are completing the program, and roughly 76% achieve clinically meaningful symptom reduction. Most importantly, they're maintaining those results at 6 and 12 months because they're learning new practices. We've got some great research partners validating what we're doing. And of course, we have some amazing customers and partners who have really been with us since the beginning, piloting this very successful mental health program. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're in Series A now, and of course, we're always looking for partners in learning and growth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. So up next, we have Live Now.
Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Daniel. I'm the CEO and founder of Live Now. I also have Jess, our Chief Product Officer, here with us today. Our goal at Live Now is to leverage the power of data to improve mental health. 61% of the workforce is burnt out, costing Canada, the US, and the EU $12.8 billion every single year. Not only that, but mental health symptoms are linked with physical health risks, such as increased cardiovascular disease risk, as well as higher morbidity rates. There are other solutions out there. However, we talked to users and we found that they stopped using these apps after 2 to 3 weeks because they couldn't be bothered to answer questions like, how are you feeling and are you feeling productive every single day?
So we built something better, something that anyone could use. Coming from marketing, our job is to target our customers with the right product at the right time. So why can't we do the same with mental health? That's exactly what Live Now is. Our deep learning model uses passively collected data to help users understand, predict changes in mental health. We help users stay on a healthy path through just-in-time interventions. And these interventions could look like, let's go on a 15-minute walk for an hour of better productivity, or let's book a massage with our health spending account to help unwind. Live Now can also help people realize the triggers, ones that are positive or negative. When Live Now detects deviation from personalized baselines, it'll notify users to record what happened as an exercise of self-reflection. So the next time they're in the same situation, they're much more mindful and self-aware. Live Now can also help people understand their productivity behaviors by highlighting their power hours. And with all these different data points, users can go back to check and see how their mental well-being has changed over time. Now this is how it all works. Live Now uses passively collected data on social and geolocational behavior through Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, as well as mobility behavior through Apple Health, combines it with our deep learning model, which is based on 15 years of research, as well as 20 million data points that we collected in our own study to provide the right intervention at the right time. In collaboration with Fraser Health and other healthcare partners, we're also exploring the potential to use our technology to help make more informed diagnoses, as well as improve decentralized clinical trials. But Live Now can also help organizations understand exactly what their users need to move the needle on ROI and resource utilization, all while using aggregate and disidentified data. That means individual users are never identified. Some KPIs may include lowering in absenteeism, as well as turnover rate, as well as better overall health and reducing CVD risk, thus enabling healthier, more productive employees and reducing turnover.
We're excited to be working with 12 paid customers. And as of last week, we've filed 4 patents. And we have an awesome team behind our product, including Uber, Facebook, Amazon, Lab 126, and Microsoft. And we're currently raising a $500K seed round to better support our 12 customers by building our capacity up. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you, Daniel and Jess. So we are at the midway point, so we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break, a stretch break. So feel free to refresh your coffee or your waters. We will pick right back up in about 5 minutes.
I'll take that.
Okay, if we can have everyone grab your seats, we're going to get started with a quick video from our Cleveland Digital Health Innovation Day that we hosted a couple of weeks ago. So if we can have everybody take their seats.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Thomas, and I'm Managing Director of Plug and Play Cleveland, and today we held our first Digital Health Innovation Day. The best part about it is that we had startups flying in from all over the country talking about their amazing digital health disruptions and innovations. And what was even greater was that the corporate hospitals and partners in the room were just wowed by the possibilities. And so really the connection between the two is where Plug and Play excels. We facilitate corporate partners and hospitals getting to pilot and finding solutions to their unmet needs and problems.
We think partnering with external firms is really critical. We are aware that we've got to embrace outside ideas, embrace outside companies, and that really is a pinnacle of us being able to innovate.
So today's event was fantastic. Every single person that I met just had an amazing story. The people have been awesome. There's a lot of good work being done. It's just ripe for innovation.
And Plug and Play Cleveland has been a wonderful partner in this process for university hospitals. There's no shortage of amazing innovation out there. There's no shortage of startups, and Plug and Play has been adaptable, they've been flexible, they've been very entrepreneurial in spirit, and have attracted really, really impressive quality companies to the table for our consideration and partnership.
Cleveland has grown up a lot over the last decade or so, growing from 300 companies to over 700 companies in the bioscience space, but we're still a young ecosystem. Having an organization like Plug and Play come in, bringing their global network to bear here in Cleveland focused on healthcare, just really helps Cleveland get on the map and also helps add to the vibrancy of our local community.
All right, everybody. We are incredibly excited to do the second round of the health startups themselves. First, with that, is going to be Sca Robotics. But before I announce them, I did just want to give one more special shout out to Liz and what she's doing at Alex's Lemonade. Really incredible work that she's doing there to be able to help children. But with that, we're getting on to the second round and Sca Robotics. Let's go.
Thank you, Zachary. I don't know what to say. These are bright lights and what a stage. But my name is Rob Rao, and I'm kind of fun to be with. That's why I got my Hawaiian shirt on, so kamaena. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what Sca is to me on a more serious note. And Sca, for me, is a journey a lot like Alex's. And my mother was a pioneering cancer doctor, and I know she wanted a doctor for her son. She got an inventor. I don't think she likes that too much, but we're working that out. It's been about 30 years. But along that journey, my mother worked with Dr. Fisher, and Dr. Fisher was one of the great pioneers of cancer therapy. He actually was the one that took us from radical mastectomies to lumpectomies. And that story actually led us down to a road where great technology met, where that individual study of Dr. Fisher wasn't all that great, but the tissues that were typed were. And those tissues led to something called Herb-C by the great Dr. Lawton, which became the first genetic therapy for cancer. What a tremendous story. My mother had that part. I used to walk the death wards with her because that's what it was back in the 70s to where we are today. Who am I? Well, I'm Rob Rao. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have a company. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've got over 10 patents to my name. I've spent my life trying to actually build devices to help make people's lives better. Because isn't that the role of a great technologist? Isn't it the ability to take great technology and raise the standard of how we all live, elevate the human condition? That's our story. What is Sca? Well, Sca came, again, all entrepreneurs need the ability to have a confluence of great events. Well, I happened to be at Carnegie Mellon. Carnegie Mellon actually opened the door to modern AI, happened to be in those labs working that out. So SCA ultimately, as we fast forward into it, we became the story of what AI meant to medicine. This is who we are, my team. We come from all different walks of life, but the most critical part are our scientists, Dr. Josh Renner, Dr. Azrael Goldschmidt. They were working on looking at finding neutrinos in the world of physics. As any great leap, you need to be able to take leaps beyond that. And they took the leaps from physics and applied it to medical science. And this is what we're trying to do. We took high particle physics, added it to AI, and here we've got medical analytics. These are our projects, and if anyone wants to talk about each of the 5 POCs, we can, but the most important is City of Hope. City of Hope took a chance with us. As any entrepreneur, we needed a chance. That chance allowed us to get 3.6 million brain sets, clear IRB in 3 months, and then ultimately built a tool in the next 3 months. What was the tool? Well, this actually brings joy to my heart. We were able to mark a brain tumor, and we were able to go through using a volumetric analysis to grab what a brain tumor was. Not pixel, but volumetric. We did this over 139 full scan T-cell T1 contrast. That allowed us ultimately to get a DICE score of 0.6. Industry experts are 0.8. And so what we need ultimately is the ability to, one, aggregate teammates, aggregate data, and build AI algorithms. For that, we need money. We've come a long way where we are today, but we ultimately believe that Sca Robotics will usher in a new generation of medical analytics. And we'd like that opportunity. So I'd love to talk to anyone about a possible Series A or any steps going forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Rob. Next, we have Zach with Pill Tracker.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zachary Javits, CEO and co-founder of Pill Tracker. We're a next-gen medication adherence company in Israel focused on helping patients take the right pill at the right time. This is a $1 trillion problem worldwide, $300 billion in the US. And we're launching to support our pharmaceutical customers with decentralized and virtual clinical trials, where 72% of studies are currently running over time, and adherence rate can be as low as 50% in both cardiac, oncology, and everything in between. We'll follow that with support of high-value specialty pharmaceuticals later on next year, And in the United States right now, we have a drug addiction is the 8th leading cause of death, primarily from opiates and amphetamines. And our technology, once hardened, can address that problem as well. Today, I'm going to focus to you mostly about high-value drugs in clinical and commercial. We deliver a cellular-enabled medication dispenser right into the patient's hands. This is not a phone. It's actually a purpose-built device with its own screen, its own chipset, its own SIM card that tracks each pill in its package and identifies exactly when that pill is removed and which pill is removed. The patient is given up-to-date prescription and medication info and messages from clinical staff about when they're supposed to take their pill. And caregivers are given missed dose alerts, symptom reporting, and anything else that the patient needs to provide on the screen. The secret to our technology is a patented layer of smart packaging that goes in the back of standard blister packages without any embedded sensors, RFID, or power sources. This technology is designed to be frictionless for drug manufacturers and packagers, non-disruptive to pharmacy dispensing, and ergonomic in the hands of the patient. So we don't change anything about the way the pill is packed or the way that a patient takes medication on a daily basis. And when we launch in Q2 2020, this technology will be tooled and scaled so it works at a clinical trial scale and eventually at a commercial scale. We're working on industrialization in partnership with Pediatrics, a lab in Israel funded by Merck, Flex, and the Israel Innovation Authority. We actually just announced the partnership today. When you pair Pill Tracker's medication packages with the dispenser, we turn every single pill into a connected device for patient support, decision support for caregivers, and we correlate that medication use data with adverse events, other medical devices, and third-party applications that are supported by Pill Tracker on Android OS and Bluetooth. Our first usability study earlier this year revealed some really interesting data. We did this in partnership with Merck and Fisher Clinical, the largest specialty packager in the world. We reviewed how Pill Tracker performed in comparison with 4 commercially available off-the-shelf products with 25 patients and 11 nurses from a wide variety of therapeutic areas. Nurses loved Pill Tracker. They said we were excellent. They loved the way that we delivered data into their daily workflow and into their existing portals. Patients like the fact that we delivered an all-in-one solution and how we were able to visualize their medication use right on the screen. We've now raised about $1 million in seed funding and another $900K in R&D grant from the Israeli government, the Bird Foundation, and the government of Shenzhen. M Ventures, the strategic venture fund of Merck, joined our board last month and has the right to lead our Series A. And our $3.5 million Series A will enable commercialization of our platform for both clinical trials and commercial use. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to demoing for you upstairs at the event hall.
All right, next we have My Digital Health Network.
Hi, I'm David Dubbs. I'm CEO of My Digital Health Network. We have a platform for chronic disease management with a focus on heart failure, with a mission to cut readmission by 2x. Sorry. These are the data for heart failure readmissions. Everybody is managing to that 30-day post-discharge window. Stanford and UCSF originally had a 22% readmission rate, improved to 14% through high engagement, but if you look out to 90 days, their readmission rate is unchanged. 1/3 of their patients are back in the hospital. Why? Because on day 31, welcome back, we get full reimbursement. The delta between that 14% floor and the 1/3 represents 250,000 people at an average cost of $13,000 per readmission, and we know they're coming back 3, 4, 5 times. So that's $2.6 billion in found money. We fix that. How do we do it? We provide the patient with a tablet computer that runs our application, paired uniquely with wireless devices that track their vital signs. But importantly, to keep people out of the hospital, you have to do medication compliance also. And so we pull the data directly from the PBM into our application in order to tell the patient, hey, it's now time for you to take your Lasix. Let me know when you've taken it. You hit confirm, and we can see on our back end that they are compliant with their meds. This is Willie Kraft, 83 years old, insulin-dependent diabetic and heart failure patient. In and out of the hospital 4 times in 2016, been on the platform for 3 years and hasn't been back. This is his clinical team, including his daughter on the far right, who is the head of the University of Arizona Medical School. This is his home screen. We see all of his medications on the left side. That's dynamically generated directly from the PBM. On the right are his vital signs for that particular day. We see everything on the back end. So whatever is going on in that house, we see Willie's data. When he has an out-of-range condition, it shows up as a red alert event and instantaneously sends an alert to his clinical team so that they can intervene before he winds up back in the hospital. Who cares about this? Obviously, anybody here who has a Medicare book of business, we can help you save money. For providers who care about delivering better outcomes at lower cost, we can help you. And for those who provide post-discharge care, we can help simplify your workflow. This is our forecast over the next 5 years, growing to 150,000 patients. This is like a Livongo type of ramp. That's 150,000 on a heart failure base of about 5.5 million. Our revenue is based on a combination of CMS reimbursement and payer incentives. This is what RPM looks like right now. There's a lot of people chasing remote patient monitoring, but we kind of look at it like the search engine business was 20 years ago. What allowed Google to win was a better algorithm and a better interface, and that's what we have. We're deployed at El Camino Hospital, Tech Salud de Monterrey, with an opportunity. We have an approved IRB with the VA. I ran innovation for a $66 billion healthcare company called Medco. We've got a crackerjack team, and our advisors are just thought leaders in cardiology. Thank you very much.
Next up, Savonics.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Reynald, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Savonix. So what is Savonix? Savonix is a platform that replaces years and years of pen and paper tests for cognitive impairment. In addition to testing patient, we also provide planned care for provider, so it's easy for them to spend time with the patient rather than working on the back end constructing that report. There is 16 million Americans with cognitive impairment in the US, and only about 1,000 board-certified neuropsychologists in US and Canada. You guys can do the math. You're going to see there is long time to wait for a doctor appointment, as well as the price is very high. It can be up to $2,000 to see a neuropsychologist. Dementia could cost around $290 billion in the US right now, and it's on a target to hit $1 trillion in the next 30 years. In addition to our application where we test for cognitive impairment, we launched on November 1st the first brain study, which look at social factor, record behavior through a wearable, and also a cognitive test. We're hoping to create the largest brain database in the world, and we're planning on commercializing in 2021. If we look at Savonix compared to our competitor, Savonix was created by neuropsychologists. They know the system, they know how to put patient and provider at the center of what we do, so we are ahead in all of those different sections. This is a kind of a snapshot of our current client. If you look at them, they go from pharmaceutical company to provider in the US and in Asia. And we're going to look at raising Series B in Q1 2020. I added this slide because, just in case I had enough time, there you can see the difference between using the Savonix app and a regular neuropsychologist visit. A neuropsychologist visit would probably ask you to come 3 or 4 times in his office before to even come with a diagnostic. With the Savonix app, the doctor can actually send a link before the first visit. You can do the test in the comfort of your home, and by the time you come to the doctor office, the report is done, the care plan is done, and you're ready to go home with your next step. And this is our team. We go from startup to neuropsychologists to very, very smart people. I think I'm the less smart in the room when I'm with these people. And if you have any more questions, I'm going to be upstairs to answer about the study or the Savonix app. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have CarePredict.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Womack. I'm the Chief Business Officer at CarePredict. We're a digital health company located in Menlo Park, California, and in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We've developed a predictive healthcare platform to identify seniors that are at risk for a fall, UTI, or showing signs of early onset of depression. We recently were awarded a Digital Health 150 Award as top 150 digital health startups in the world. Our customers currently are in the United States, and we're doing a paid pilot in Japan with Sampo, which we're very excited about. I always like to start with this slide. This is a plot of life expectancy as a function of time over the last 150 years. The good news is we've all been doing our job, and we're living longer. The bad news is we have a ton of new conditions that we need to treat. And this includes chronic diseases, the increased incidence of seniors that are falling or suffering UTIs, and even being isolated and increasing the number of depressed seniors. And probably the most confounding variable there is we have a shortage of caregivers. And so we're seeing this in the United States and even in a more pronounced way in Japan. The challenge is that we've been functioning in a detect and treat kind of mindset. So technologists have been focused on physiological measurements, making vital sign measurements, cramming as many sensors as they can in wearable devices. And the challenge with that is when you're detecting and treating, you're very far downstream. And in fact, if you can get further upstream, you can predict and prevent. So what we do that's very unique at CarePredict is we're actually looking at changes in activities and behavior. And if you can get those measurements and those changes from the baseline, you can actually intervene in a timely manner and make a difference. We currently use our platform with our customers to identify falls, seniors at increased risk for a fall, urinary tract infections 3 or 4 days in advance, mild cognitive impairment, dementia, depression, social isolation, and malnutrition. You're probably wondering, how does this magic work? We have a connected wearable device that's worn on the dominant arm of a senior, and it picks up the subtle changes in kinematics of their wrist. So when they sit in the dining room and they bring food from table to face, it's picking up their personalized eating gesture. And so now the machine automatically assesses when they're eating, drinking, going to the restroom, washing their hands, taking and providing themselves with personal care. All of that data is sent to our platform and then served up to the staff in the context of a group living community, home care agency, or seniors in their own home and their home care caregivers. Our product houses a variety of sensors for optical sensing for heart rate, pulse ox, and does measurements on their kinematics of their wrist. Here's an image of the Android and iOS app. And here's some of our results. We've lowered hospitalization rates by 21% over a 2-year study with our partners, reduced the monthly fall rate by 37%, and also increased the geometric average length of stay by 91%. Our team is very experienced. Our founder CEO is a serial entrepreneur. He actually invented the original EMR for the Palm Pilot and has run several major home health companies. And thank you. If you'd like to talk, my email is here. Find me on LinkedIn, Jerry Wilmink, and thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Health Beats.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eileen, and I'm CEO of HealthBits. HealthBits is a patient remote monitoring platform. Before the acquisition of product management buyout from iHealth Labs, I was the COO running iHealth Labs business in Asia. So, and in the process, we also signed a global distributorship agreement with iHealth to distribute their product globally. So the most significant win, so in founding about a couple of months, we actually signed a contract with Meru PHN. Meru PHN is one of the 31 PHN primary health network that was actually funded by the Australian federal government. So across 31 PHNs, Meru PHN they actually form the entire primary care in the country of Australia. So Meru PHN actually looks after about 380,000 chronic disease patients. We are in phase 1, and we are in discussion with them to deploy remote patient monitoring at scale in early next year. So the question is, why would Meru PHN select HealthBits, a new company, startup, as their solution provider? HealthBits is always all about simplicity. It's going back to basics. In healthcare, where everything is complex, we serve our patient as well as our provider that use the system. One of the big issue with remote monitoring is patient adherence, and most of our patients being chronically ill and also belong to a slightly higher age group are a lot less technologically savvy. So we spend all our effort in enhancing patient experience and being in the forefront of providing an easy-to-use application for our patients. We also provide a very simple to deploy. A plain vanilla HealthBits can be deployed in 3 days. Day 1, the agreement is signed. Day 2, we deliver the devices. And in day 3, the setup can be done and patient go live enrollment. So we have a very simple commercial model, just monthly fee per patient. Let me just show you a very quick video. Usually I'll do a live demo, but let me just show you a very, very quick video of how we just use a one-click experience for our patient without having to do any Bluetooth pairing for the device. Can someone play the video? Should I just play? Okay. Okay, so on the left side is actually a pulse oximeter measuring blood oxygen level, mainly for COPD patients. And on the right is actually our app. It's just a one single click. The app measures by itself. Connect the Bluetooth directly. Once the measurement is up, just remove the device, and everything will be automatically synced into the system. So this video is 30 seconds. Every single vital we take, we spend months trying to reduce every single click, reduce every single effort in order for the pairing to happen, for anything that go wrong, to increase our user experience. For our provider, the entire system is paperless, so as not to create additional workflow for our healthcare professionals. And we can do the entire enrollment, paperless enrollment, in less than 10 clicks of a button. All right? Okay, these are some of the devices that we provide, from blood glucose monitor, blood pressure scale, and including a Holter monitoring as well. All right. So this is my last slide. Basically, we are looking for clients that we can partner and pilot our program with, people who wants to talk to us even with regards to population health, deployment of remote monitoring at scale, or even to talk about the challenges we face in remote areas of Australia. We are also looking at partners who can get into the ecosystem. And third, of course, we are in this phase of fundraising. The most important part for today is with the help and flexibility of plug and play. We set our booth in the second level demo to provide vitals measurement to anyone who would like to have your blood pressure, blood oxygen, or weight measured on the spot. So feel free to visit us at level 2, and I look forward to have a chat with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, and for the last startup who will be presenting today is going to be Steve from Health Gorilla.
Hi everybody, I'm Steve, Health Gorilla. I understand I'm the last one standing here separating you from the tacos bar in the back, so I'm gonna go fast. Health Gorilla actually started right here in the back of this building at Plug and Play. And we started building the clinical network, what we call today clinical network, and we quickly discovered that building this kind of scalable clinical network actually is much harder than we thought. What else is new? And we spent a long time, we spent all the capital that we raised to be heads down and be persistent and continue to build the product. We also annoyed everybody at Plug and Play because we keep requesting moving us within the building until we ran out of space. So it's been a couple of years for us, and today we find ourselves powering some of the fastest growing companies in the United States, Latin America, and Canada by providing clinical high quality data sets to them. So we are powering all kinds of digital health companies. Some of them are EMRs, some of them are AI's company, artificial intelligence. A lot of them are cancer management, telemedicine companies across basically all works of digital health, cancer management, diabetes management companies, health institutions and health systems as well. So what we sell today is a set of APIs. We're a horizontal data management platform. And a couple of years when we started the company, we predicted that we as a country will run out of money. So something will have to change in how we provide access to healthcare. So we knew the country will be switching away from fee-for-service to outcomes, and organizations will start to bear risk in providing better outcomes. And the only thing preventing them from doing this successfully, as we saw a couple of years when we started the company, was access to clinical data, high-quality clinical data. So we built a clinical network that consists of several APIs. One of them aggregates the data. We have coverage in the United States today, about 85% of all hospitals and health systems already submitting data bidirectionally. You can download our APIs and connect to 85% of clinical data. We also cover about 90% of diagnostic data in the United States. That includes all clinical labs, pathology, radiology centers, and the likes. We aggregate data, we normalize, deduplicate, provide high-quality data back through the FIRE algorithm. And we also have a lot of algorithms working on NLP today, natural language processing. There's mounts of data that's not clean. So focuses on high-quality data. We work on top of existing networks today, Care Quality, Commonwealth. They're nonprofit organizations, and we are the onboarding platform to bring customers on board. We also cover a lot of health institutions that produce data. We also do it bidirectionally. So if you use our APIs, not only you can get the entire clinical history, you can also submit clinical orders for pathology lab, blood work, radiology centers, and so on and so forth. If there are any solutions, if there are any clinical digital health startups here, I invite you to visit our developers' website, sign up, get access to Sandbox, and kick the tires. And we offer significant discounts to emerging companies today and to venture capital as well. We can power your entire portfolio and accelerate your digital health companies by giving them high-quality clinical data for treatment purposes today. A couple of highlights. I'm going to go quickly. We have emerging payers that are starting to use us. We have various companies that are growing tremendously fast by managing chronic disease. All of these companies using Health Gorilla as a mission-critical data provider. So, like I said, sign up on developers.healthgorilla.com. You get access to Sandbox, and we can accelerate your solution very fast. Thank you very much.
All right, please, everybody, one more round of applause for the incredible startups that we've had present today. And so now we'd like to begin the voting period. We want to hear from you. Who was your favorite startup this afternoon during the Health Expo? So if you look on your badges that were given to you, on the back is a QR code. Scan that with your phone. That'll take you to the survey itself. During that time, we're going to be having a presentation and video about our new University 165 program. So take the next couple minutes, vote, and after that, we will announce the winners. Thank you.
University 165 is our new elite executive education program here at Plug and Play Tech Center. Our corporate partners were looking for additional content, not just what to do, but how to do it. So in response, we created a series of courses on innovation, venture capital, and high performance management, with more courses coming soon. The basis of these courses are real-life case studies from our corporate partners on what's worked for them and what hasn't. The courses are rooted in industry best practices mixed with cutting-edge academic models. They really cover strategy, process, structures, and culture.
It also is very rich just discussion within the class with the other corporates that are in similar positions. What stage are they at? What have they tried that worked and doesn't work?
We want to stay on the cutting edge and constantly look at different technologies and innovation that we can drive back into our core business as well as to our customers, that keeps us at the front end of innovation in general.
We can develop great technology or we can find great technology externally, but we really have to implement consistent strategies throughout our organization to make those technologies something that we can actually commercialize and adopt at scale.
We're really excited about our program and hope you can join us.
Okay, all right. So we have counted up the votes, and we're very excited to announce the winner is going to be Sidekick Health. Fantastic. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
Thank you so much. Thank you to Plug and Play, and thanks to all of you. Great inspiration, and yeah, I'm honored. Thank you.
So again, thank you to everybody who's been able to come out, the startups, all of our corporate partners. We're very excited to have our existing corporate partners who continue to show up, who continue to be engaged so that we can help innovate, and then also so excited to begin working with our new corporate partners, and then to everybody else in attendance. With that, on the second floor, we are going to be having the networking event sponsored by Silicon Valley Bank, where we're going to be having appetizers and tacos, and it's going to be a great networking event. You'll be able to see the startups at the tables, so you'll be able to network and meet with them and have further discussions there. But with that, that wraps up everything going on here. So again, thank you, everybody.